Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Just to make sure that you've dialed into the right Zoom room, we are hosting the Future Ready series called The New Better. We're currently waiting for everybody else to dial in, so just bear with us for another 30 seconds. Thank you. Okay. Well, good morning, good afternoon again. Thank you for joining us today. This is part of our Future Ready series. LimLoges&Masters presents this series over these last 6 months or so. We might take a short break in July, August, but we'll come back in September. Nonetheless, today's session is called A New Better, and it examines and discusses how businesses can move forward successfully and not just to survive, but to thrive. With us is Ian Homer, our executive coach and also trainer. Ian is originally from England and has lived in Southeast Asia for quite some time, since 1996. And he's worked in various parts of Asia, to name a few: Hong Kong, Malaysia, and Singapore. And he works very closely with coaching and mentoring entrepreneurs for the last 13 years in Asia, and one of which is called Scaling Up. So Ian's specialist area is helping mid-sector growth firms scale effectively and sustainably. Key areas of focus include being able to align around a simple core strategy today and executing it with repeatable excellence and accelerated cash flow. Ian is a golfer, musician, a man of all trades, and he's a committed family man, a father of two, and I hear also a comedian when it takes his fancy. So let me welcome Ian. Ian,
Thank you.
We're going through troubled times, but also opportunistic moments. Given that COVID-19 has hit almost 4 million now, we're looking at new ways and better ways to do business for today. Is this going to be a glitch, you feel?
Is it just a glitch? Well, yeah, it is. But one of the things that I've learned over the years, and I like rah-rah and encouragement and we can do it, but I also look for evidence. And so what do we do? And it is a glitch, but we've had these glitches before. And I'm old enough to remember the oil crisis in the 1970s, Black Monday when the stock markets in Europe crashed, the Asian financial crisis when I first arrived in Asia, the 2008-9 world financial crisis. And what I've learned is two things. They were glitches, but we learned about the unswerving resourcefulness of the human spirit. We bounce back after each one of those, and I believe that we can do again. And the second thing is that what led the charge, what got economies back on their feet, was not large corporations, it was mid-sector firms. The entrepreneurs and the scale-up companies created the new job. So yes, it is a glitch, but one I do strongly believe that there's evidence for that we can recover.
Well, that's good news, good news. Well, the floor is yours, Ian.
Okay. All right, thank you. And I've got one more. Before we get into the content, let me just perhaps share my screen, if I may. Let me, can I grab the share? Let me go into there. Can I share my screen? What has not? Am I still connected to the video? Am I still on?
Yes, you're on. You should be able to share your screen.
Am I shared now? going back into, now some music. We were testing this just before, weren't we?
Yes.
Back into there.
Sorry,
okay,
everyone.
there we are. There we are. No, there we are.
Okay,
Okay, now I can do that and that. So I should be broadcasting. There we go. Okay, so meanwhile, let me give you a word of encouragement. And that word is in the form of a number, and that is 92. All right? Back in the 1930s, there was a particularly big glitch called the Great Depression. The world as a whole was not doing very well, but North America hit a record low. 1 in 4 working people were out of a job, 25% unemployment. Well, we're nowhere near that in even emerging and developed economies. But over the years that followed, 92% of new job creation came from mid-sector scale-up companies. Before COVID-19, there's about 11,000 new companies start every hour around the world. We don't lack for startups, we lack for scale-ups. And those are the economic first responders that get economies back on their feet. And that means you guys, right? So hopefully that's a word of encouragement before we get into the meat of what we're going to discuss today. So by means of a quick bit of background, it is a privilege to share our most limited resource, which of course is time. But there's one other thing that the recent months has put a focus on, and that is freedom. Yeah, freedom. We don't realize how much freedom we enjoy until it's taken away. All right, and we've been heavily restricted, and we still are in many respects. So let's not take that for granted as we move forward and emerge from this crisis. But before we go any further, a shout out to all parents out there who have probably had to manage the classrooms, the school playground, the offices, and the home all under one roof. So those are my real children, by the way, 5 and 2. They've just come back to school yesterday, and all those parents I'm with you in spirit. Keep it going, because we will emerge into a new environment. So how are we going to work today? I'd like us to observe sort of 5 key things. First of all, drop it. Yeah, whatever you are back home in the office, you've got a role to play there, but be you for the next 30 or 40 minutes. Be you. Let us connect heart to heart and get what you really want from our session today. Be the authentic self. Rough it. Hopefully you get an idea or two from today, but get it down, then get it right. Perfection is the enemy of done. All right? So don't get it perfect, get it down, then focus on getting it right. Bring it. Bring your enthusiasm. And by the way, this is our natural state. This is the natural human state. I'm often asked, can you come and give a motivational talk to my staff? I said, well, yeah, I can. It won't work. They said, well, why is that? I said, because your team are probably motivated anyway. No one is demotivated on day 1. I can help you get rid of the demotivating factors. That's got more of a chance. So bring your enthusiasm. And lastly, we've got to move it. To progress into the future, we have to do something. We have to change something if we want to go into the future. All right, so drop it, be you, rough it, get it down, then get it right. Bring enthusiasm and then move on your ideas. And I hope that that makes sense. As we go through, I might check in with the chat box, because you may have noticed, because you're a bunch of smart cats, I know, that I speak with a rather thick English accent. If you don't catch something, I'll be looking at the chat box as we go through. Please stop me and ask. Ask a question you can ask as we go through, or there'll be a chance at the end. Lastly, some questions I can't answer. I can't answer all the questions, but we will, particularly at the end, give you the opportunity to engage with us for about a 10-15 minute phone call to see if we might be able to help you with 1 or 2 of the challenges that you're facing now. If we can't, we can steer you to resources that may be more appropriate, but we'll try and have that dialogue and see if we can help you get to a new level of performance. All right, so a lawyer once described me as the wise owl dispensing advice from above the tree. I can answer many, but maybe not all. But keep the questions coming. Lastly, before we get into the real topic of the day, the only failure, you can only fail, and I don't just mean in business, but in life, relationships, sporting endeavors, your family, you can only really fail. The only failure is the failure to participate. Get involved. Wherever you are, be there. And it's really hard to lose and fail. All right? So, the other thing before we get into the topics, and particularly so what do we do, is that over the years, pre-COVID-19 and as we're emerging, what I've learned is that good business practices have always been useful. They've always been applicable. The conditions may have changed, but good business practice has always been important, but now it's 100 times more important. The reevaluation of our business model, the competitive landscape, realigning our products and services, that was good practice anyway. Now it's 100 times as important because things are changing and they probably will never go back to exactly how they were. So what we'll go through are some good business practices and look at how you can apply them in your environment. So to set the scene, when the tide is high, and you may have heard the phrase, a rising tide floats all the boats. When the tide is high, all the boats float. When the economy's good, even poorly run companies with poor products in comparison can still do reasonably well. So it wasn't a boom time before COVID-19, but it was better than it is now. And the rising tide floats all of our companies, the good ideas as well as the bad ideas. But over time, our lives and our offices become sort of like this. There are product lines, lines of service, customers, members of staff that have joined and are part of our lives, but they begin to clutter up the picture. But because overall the picture remains fairly good, the good covers up the bad and the things that we have to prune ourselves of. We've been given a stimulus now. It's as good a time as any to review what we are carrying forward and really should be parting company with, and hence the new better. When you say the new normal, normal has an inference that it is in the past. I don't want to emerge as I was, and my hope for humanity is as we come out of this, we will be better on many levels than we were when we went into this crisis. So this gives you a picture of where we are now. So in doing that, setting the scene, I like us to make 6 decisions as we go through. And they're not major strategic decisions. They're 6 quick teasers or 6 quick prompts of our business thinking to get us into a new state that will better equip us to go forward. Okay, so the first of those is, do we survive or not? Will we survive or not? And you've probably been through this particular question. Now, if I can just switch to my little drawing tool. Yeah, okay, you should be able to see that on the screen. So, survive, yes or no. And you may have had this conversation before. If you have not, it's high time that you engaged in that with your team and your advisors. If you are going to survive, the next question is that business as usual? Are we going to survive business as usual? We're just going to continue. If that is yes, please, you may want to get off this webinar now. If it's going to be business as usual, then go make some more money, yeah, before someone works out what you're doing and tries to steal your customers. because you're probably going to be okay. And if you're in that lucky position, business as usual. If you're going to survive, but it's not really business as usual, you may be looking at a short-term pivot or a long-term pivot. A short-term, something that you have to adjust now and get back on track. A long-term pivot might be, our model is essentially sound, but we have to refocus our customer segment, the way we deliver our service, more towards a long-term change, although our fundamentals are still sound. Up here, if the answer is no, we really have to reevaluate as quickly as possible, because if we're not going to survive, the time is nigh to change things. So for the rest of our conversation today, we're going to be looking at this area here: total reevaluation, short-term or long-term pivot. So that's decision number one, survive or not. Decision number two, what have we got? What have we got? What do we have? And what has got us this far? So a very simple tool. And I like the idea of using tools because it helps us think differently. Einstein was famous for saying, the level of thinking that got you this far will not get you any further. We have to change our level of thinking, but that's tough. A tool will help us think differently. And here's the first one to decide what we have got, right? What do you have in your arsenal? And if I can just draw this here, all right, there we go, simple tool. On the left-hand side, we have got strengths, and these are inherent. You've probably heard of a SWOT tool. SWOT tools are great analysis tools for internal, sort of middle management. They're inward focused. This is outward focused. All right, so what are your inherent strengths? What has been your secret sauce that's got you this far? What have been the keys to your success? If I was a competitor and I was going to take your customers away, why would I struggle? Yeah, why would I suffer at your hands? What have you got that makes you unique? On a personal level, a strength is also what you are good at and what fills you with passion just thinking about it. Yeah, that's a personal strength. What are you really good at and what you enjoy? So that's part of what you've got. The other half of what you've got is and these are also inherent, which means they're not likely to change. An inherent weakness is something that's there, but is not likely to change. So you haven't got to work on them to improve them. It's more, what do you do on the strength side to compensate for them? For example, one of my inherent weaknesses is I am a Western guy who doesn't speak Bahasa Malaysia or Mandarin or Cantonese, to my shame. And my wife and I are trying to fix that as I talk to you. But at the moment, for the next year or two, it is an inherent weakness of mine. Okay? So answering these two questions with your team, with your advisors, goes to the question of what have we got? What can we use? Okay, so flip back to here, what have we got? The next question is, what problems can we solve with what we've got? And who has those problems? So what have we got? Who, or rather, what problems do we solve and who's got them? And to answer that question, we go back to the tool and we look at trends. These are market trends, technology trends. Look at your own life. Look at the life of your employees. look at the life of your customers, look at the lives of your customer's customer. And through a period of days and weeks that follows, look at how these are changing and what you might be able to do with what you've got. What problems are they likely to encounter? So this little tool up here, strengths, weaknesses and trends, is also like a little mini house. The foundation is these two here, and this is the roof, and that's how your company is built. Another tool that will help you in who has the problem and how do we solve it is a simple, what I call a waterfall type graph, and it do something like this. On this axis, we plot profit. On the horizontal axis, you can put a range of things. One is, of course, customers, products, regions, how you measure your success. And you've probably got, let me just move that across there just a little bit. You've probably got a picture that does something like this. You've got very profitable ones here and not so profitable ones down here. So again, over time, as we go through, I've worked in sales, I've run sales teams that manage them, and sometimes sales people need a hit. They need to sell something to someone, even if it's a marginal gain or even sometimes a loss. But because the overall picture is good, the good products and customers mask the bad ones. So we've probably over time ended up with customers that are down here, as well as, and these are probably not so helpful, as well as customers that are over here. So when we put these two things together, these trends and the characteristics of our core customers, we get a very good beat on what problem we solve, what characterizes our core customers, and who in the future has more problems like they do. Okay, I hope that that answers the what problem do we solve and who's got the problem that we can fix. All right, two quite useful tools to discuss with your teams. The next one down of our 5 is how do we solve the problems that exist? If we know what problems are likely to occur, what characterizes our core customers, how do we then, with what we've got, engineer solutions to these problems? And I've got another couple of quick tools that you can use to answer that question. So if we stay on that same page, there's, first of all, let me just check in with the Q&A. Are there any comments or questions? If this is making sense, just type in OK in the comment box in the Q&A. Just type in OK, good to go, or making sense. Let me just check in and see if that is making sense so far.
We encourage you to just drop in a quick OK or a yes. Yeah. All is OK in the chat box, please.
Okay.
Q&A. All right. We've got.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, that's great. Sandra, yeah, what if a weakness is something that you are continually facing? Well, I got this question from a consultancy firm recently that was a participant. If this is something that you are constantly bumping into, then it's just something that you've probably got to compensate for. It sounds like it's not likely to change. If it's being encountered all the time, it's not likely to change. So it's something that you need to compensate for in terms of your strengths. For example, I previously was constantly facing the weakness of financial administration. And every year doing tax calculations and entering into my accounting system, I could do it and I understand what I'm doing, but even the thought of it was driving me nuts, until we're able to outsource that to someone who's much better at doing it. So I didn't try and work on my weakness and try and make myself an accountant with the best intentions in the world. I would only get to a maybe 6.5 out of 10 in the accounting score with working on my weakness. But I compensated for that by outsourcing that portion of the business and focused on what I was really good at. All right, so hopefully that answers that one. Okay, but thanks for the comments and keep them coming. So if I go back to, let me just close that down. What have we got? What problems can we solve and who has them? How do we solve them? Here is a quick matrix to help us. Choose the right tool. Okay, and here we go. Along the bottom, you've got the things that you can do, and they generally range on a scale of being hard to easy. If that along there is difficulty, they're hard to implement. Oops, sorry, let me just share the right one. There we are. Okay, so that's the quadrant. This is how you solve the problems. Hard things to do or easy things to do. And along that axis, we have impact. And this is low impact and high impact. Now, things that are hard to do and have a low impact are essentially wastes of time. And it's surprisingly easy to waste our time doing things. In my own life and my own career, I've often been asked to put a specific solution together. It's been within my capability to do it. I've spent a lot of time doing it, but it's added only an incremental gain to a client, and it was no use to anybody else. But I felt I was obligated to do it. What would have been better was to say that I can do that, but these guys have the solution ready to go and they're better at it than me. Get it from those guys and I can focus on what I can really do. So generally, don't be dragged into the allure of doing it just because you can, because it probably won't benefit you or your client. If it's easy to do and low impact, these are basically tactics. Yeah, do them for the sake of completeness, but they're probably not going to give you much of a gain. As we move around easy to implement, high impact, these are winning moves. Now, do them, all right? If they're easy to do, they're within your capability, and they're high impact, then absolutely do those things. But here's the snag. If they're easy to do, they're high impact, the competition is very likely, competition is very likely to be focusing on the same gains that you're sharing. Okay, so by all means, implement them if you can, but if that's all you do, the competition is probably looking at the same thing as you are. What I'd like you to consider is, yes, the tactics and the winning moves with what you've got are benefits that you can offer. But where the goal is often found are these things over here that I call crazy ideas. that are hard to implement, but high impact. Now, the best way of formulating crazy ideas is getting as close as you can to your best customers and asking them. So the best source of intelligence are in fact your customers. What if we could do this? What is the biggest challenge that you're facing moving forward? What is the advantage that you want to pass on to your customers? And can we help you in that endeavor? And the crazy ideas, you may not arrive at them instantly, but over time, if you keep asking those questions, it's amazing how many crazy ideas actually come to fruition and make a stack of money. If you think this crazy idea could work, then of course, don't bet the company on one crazy idea. You want to bet small and then gradually scale up the investment as you prove the concept as we go through. So hopefully that gives you a metric or a matrix to think about how you would solve these problems. Lastly, on the solution track, let me give you some examples of companies that have done this, including myself. All right, now I know that these companies are multi-billion-dollar corporations and you are probably not. So, but I've chosen these because you can identify with them and you can easily link them back to your own situation. So here are some ideas, bearing in mind these over here. Here are some examples of companies that have changed owing to current conditions. And the first one I sort of class as leverage a pivot point. And the example is Amazon. Now, I know that these are, if you look at the market cap, it's hundreds of billions of dollars. And I know that's not you. But the example here is that Amazon built this amazing infrastructure for their own use, their own logistics and ordering process. But what they realized is, hey, we've built this thing that we can offer to customers. The customers can build their solutions on top of our platform. And of course, that spawned Amazon Web Services that people can host their websites on and build applications on. This was a pivot point that Amazon already had, but they retargeted it and used it as a profit center. My other favorite example is retooling. And Fuji is my example there. Fuji realized they were making chemicals and paper for the photographic industry. Rapidly, the sun was setting on that business. Everybody's going digital. So they realized that they were chemists. They understood how to manufacture chemical compounds. So they repositioned themselves to make cosmetics. So what have they got? They've got chemical production knowledge. Who has the problem? The companies that need to manufacture these products. They easily moved into that space and are profitable in a whole new area. And the last one that I'd like to highlight is one of my favorite locations, and this is leverage a strength. Okay, that you can actually visit here, you can actually go to a Starbucks now. But what do I mean by leverage a strength? Leverage a strength, what Starbucks have is an audience, people that are coming to them either online or physically now back in the stores, they have that audience that they can actually use to offer more products on top of that strength that they already have. So those are 3 examples of using what they've got, the problems that are arising, and how they can meet those needs in the future. And by the way, like Amazon, I said I'd give you an example from my own life. I built a webinar series on productivity, helping people gain an hour's extra production per day without working any longer hours. And I recorded these things for 7 days and then realized I could use that as a product or a gateway to other things that we do for a company. So I'm not quite Amazon, but I did build a product by accident almost that I could then use for other purposes. Okay, so let me just pause and let me just, because I saw some questions coming in, let me just make sure. Okay, do you mean we should only focus on working on inherent strengths? Actually, yes, I do. Your inherent strength is something that you are competent at and you enjoy doing. So do whatever you can to add more excellence to those things that you enjoy doing. Do you enjoy something because you're good, or are you good because you enjoy it? The answer is actually, who cares? Those things are always true. So do whatever you can to build your excellence on what you are good at and what you enjoy doing. Look at what has made you successful to this point with your existing customers and leverage that. You will have weaknesses, but rather than work on your weaknesses, compensate for them in terms of what you're good at. And then if you have to outsource or mitigate those weaknesses, that's what I suggest that you do. So I hope that answered the question. Crazy ideas, aren't they risky when cash is scarce? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Now, the thing with a crazy idea when cash is scarce is don't bet the company on a crazy idea. Have a value hypothesis in your mind. A hypothesis is a fancy name for a theory. I think this solution could make money for me and be of value to my customer, but I don't know whether it works yet. Let me produce something that I think would work and use it on a test customer. Explain to the customer that it is a test, an experiment, and see if it works. Once you prove the concept, then you can bet a little bit bigger. So it's a great question. They're crazy ideas because they're crazy. So don't bet the farm on the idea before you bet small and proved that the theory works. I hope that answered those questions, but keep them coming, and great to have that participation. So let's get back to our decisions. What have we got? What is our secret sauce? What problems, trends, and the keys to our success? What is the common denominator with our customers? How do we solve them? Look at that matrix. What are our winning moves? What are 1 or 2 potential crazy ideas? And by the way, you won't probably solve these problems and these questions here on the first go. The key is to be iterative about that with your team, with your advisors, with your coach if you have one, and keep reviewing these things. And if you're like the companies that I've experienced, over time, you'll find the key. You'll find the solutions that will get you to a new level. Being the enemy of, and if you think that's hard, it's not easy, but here's the real benefit. Going from bad to okay is pretty easy. Going from okay to great is much harder. But there's plenty of room at the great table because only a few companies bother to do what it takes to get over there. So if you're finding that is maybe a hard hill to climb, it is. But the key is to keep iterating and you'll find success. Only a few companies bother. So with that in mind, what you've actually done is to create your value proposition. And every time I mention the words value proposition, I hear a groan from an audience or a groan from participants. Is that all that we've done? Is create a value proposition? It's a very well-worn, used term. But ladies and gentlemen, from the heart, value is the only thing a customer will pay you for. If you can't quantify your value to a customer, the only thing they have to compare you to somebody else is your price. And we don't want to be competing on price, do we? Do we? I hope we don't. But here is, let me just flip back to my drawing. And these are real stats from real companies. Yeah, what we've learned is that in creating a value proposition, we identify less than 50% of the value we deliver, or that our solutions have. Companies and research is very, very clear. When they're selling a solution, they actually identify only half of the value that they deliver, or that is the potential in their solution. Moreover, they are only able to, quantify less than 50% of what they identify. So they identify only half the value, but they quantify only half of that value. So when you're actually presenting to a customer, you've probably only got about 20% of your value on the table. The only snag is that's probably the same value segment as the competition is focusing on too. So you're there competing on price, which is never a good place to be in. So if we identify those four things right there, what we've got, what problem we solve, who's got the problem, and how do we solve it? What is unique and special about our solution that the competition can't match? Once we've got those four there, we have a killer value proposition that we can go to the market with. Okay, I hope that did make sense. Question, if you know your value proposition, how do you then engage prospective customers? Okay. Oh, that's a big question because that is largely marketing focused. I'll tell you what I'll do. Okay, very, very quickly. All right. How do you then engage your value proposition? How do you engage the customers? Well, a well-engineered value proposition runs right through the company, by the way. It determines how you sell, how you market, how you engineer your products, how you deliver, and how you collect money. The value proposition is the key, it's the heart of a well-run company. So when it comes to engaging customers, rather than send out generic messaging, what we need to do is to connect symptoms of the problems that exist out there, to connect those problems with the specific solutions that we deliver. For example, if you're a manufacturer and you manufacture mixers, you're saying CEOs generally face this problem, all right? With these types of solution, they can get this benefit, and this is how to contact us. So it's not generic messaging, it's connecting a specific symptom with a specific value that we offer, and then how to get in touch with us. Okay, I hope that was a quick snapshot of marketing, but I hope that it answered the question. All right, oops. So with that in mind, what's next? So if we've got a decent value proposition, what do we do? What's our next step? And in all decisions, yeah, I encourage all of us, the fastest way to get an answer is to ask a who question first. Whatever you're wrestling with, whether it's technology, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, and you want to improve that, ask a who question first. Who has walked the path before me? Or who can steer me on the right path to save me untold hours of trying to work it out myself? You're smart cats and you will get the answer. It's just so much faster if you ask a who question first. A guy that I know personally was looking at CRM solutions, gave it to his IT team. They came back with about 20 different options. They were going to table it for the next monthly management meeting until this guy said, wait a minute, who knows my business and who knows CRM solutions? This is the customer relationship management platforms. He contacted 2 people. 48 hours later, they gave him the same answer. And of course, that was what they implemented. Job done, a better decision, faster than he could ever have done by himself. The power of asking a who question. So we mentioned marketing, and this applies to marketing and to your business. And Bill Gates reported that he found this the best marketing question he had ever been asked in his life. And it is this: what are the top 25 to 50 relationships I need to get me to a whole new level? Now, of course, the bigger the company you are, the bigger that number. He was looking at 100 to 250 relationships in Microsoft. But if you're a medium-sized company or small company, think 25 to 50. Who are those relationships that I really need to cultivate to get me to a new level? And this is no time to aim small. Don't aim small. If you need the head of a particular company in your region, put that there. And you can work your way towards fostering relationships with the people that can get you there. Finally, one of the key who questions is who can help you go furthest, fastest. And I love sport, and at the top left-hand corner, you see a guy called Tony Roach. He coached Roger Federer, who really helped explode his success. Michael Jordan, you can see at the bottom with the legendary Phil Jackson, who's featured in the Last Dance series on Netflix if you follow basketball. And not many people know that Steve Jobs had a coach, the late Bill Campbell. And if you read the book $1 Trillion Coach, it's about the life of Bill Campbell. He passed away about 3 years ago now. And not many people know that Steve had a coach. So all these guys that are at the very, very top levels, all of them don't do it solo. They all have help. So one of the key who questions is, who can help me get furthest, fastest on my journey? I know we are a firm of professional consultants and coaches. It might be me. If it's not me, if it's not us, get someone in your corner that can help you get farthest, fastest, just like these super successful entrepreneurs, because there really is no rule that you need to succeed on your own. The guy that's driving a Lamborghini, or one of those guys, Roger Federer, no one looks at their success and says, it doesn't count because he had some help. It doesn't matter. Yeah, there's no rule that you must succeed on your own. Just succeed. And if we can help you on that journey, there'll be an opportunity to get in touch with us for 5-10 minutes. If you've got a problem we can help you with, we'll take it further. If not, we can suggest other resources that can help you. So let me just check in with the chat box there, and Chat. Okay. So where are we? Crazy idea. Let me just. Okay, I'm not sure we are for time. I think we're okay.
I think we're good. You've been answering questions all along, Ian, so I do believe we have another 5 minutes.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. So, Andy, Indonesia. Hello. Okay. So, I was going. Any advice on what we do? Yeah, that was it.
How do you get close to people in your desired relationship list if you don't know them?
How do you get close to people that you don't know? Okay, a wonderful tool called Google Alerts. If you want to get close to someone and you don't know them now, okay, it might take time. If you don't know someone who knows their nephew or whatever, sometimes you don't. But if you type in their name in Google Alerts, Google will alert you with whatever is in the news about that person. And over time, if you can send them an email, or, okay, you probably don't have their email address, but if you can find out who their PA is, or who someone in their company, and say, look, I've been monitoring the news of this company, well done for that funding round, or that win, acquisition, or whatever that is in the news. Gradually, you can network your way to getting close to that person. My favorite example, what was the guy's name? Greg Brenneman, I think it was, who turned around Continental Airlines. A guy that I know well wanted to get close to Greg Brenneman. It took him 2 years, but he ended up sitting next to them in the front room in a conference and said, hey, Greg, can we do this thing together? And it exploded from there. So don't expect instant success, but Google Alerts is a great way to network your way to people that you don't know today. Hope that helped.
Great. I think we've covered most of it.
What's your view on?
We had a very busy chat room. I'm really glad everyone's engaged. Okay. I'm going to turn on my video now and see if you could turn off your screen, Ian, I will
turn off my screen. Okay, I'll stop sharing there.
Thank you. Thanks for that. I just want to highlight our contact points here, and we're happy to have you write to us. Ian's made an offer of a 15-minute dialogue with you just to check in and just for you to have that quick touch point for you and for any of your partners or colleagues who feel that they could benefit from this session as well. These are our email addresses. And just to highlight as well, we've got another webinar coming up on the 30th of June. This will be the last in our first half of this year of our Future Ready series. It's called The Future of Mergers and Acquisitions, the Business and People Imperative. We're hosting this in collaboration with Britcham, and some of the panelists will be based in North Asia. So hopefully all of you who've sat in the call today would also be able to participate. And please write into us if you're keen to be part of that group. Keep in touch. And again, I thank you, Ian, for taking the time to speak to us today. I think all of us benefited from this, so I really appreciate you giving us such great insights. Thank you so much, Ian.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a good week ahead. Bye-bye.